What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's What's on Kickstarter. Today we're going to be taking a look at some of the great, good, and not so good decks recently released on the platform. But before we jump into it, as always, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend.
And ring the bell, yo.
So Steve, I gotta say, after the past couple weeks, we've had some really slow ones, but we have a ton of new decks coming out this week, man, and a lot of good ones.
Dude, I'm excited every single week to see what's up there. You know, I usually don't check it until the day of our video, so I'm always excited and surprised.
Same here, man. It's always nice to see it with some fresh eyes, and I think this week actually really surprised me because we have more great campaigns than good or needs help, which is always an encouraging kind of feel there.
Yeah, it's exciting to see a couple of the creators up there that I wasn't expecting.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I think the artwork is across the board on this. There are really decks this week for magicians, for cardists, for collectors, for everyone under the sun, which I always love to see because sometimes when you have a week with only 3 or 4 decks, you're only geared towards 1 or 2 markets, which always makes it tough.
And we have a beware deck, so stick around to see which one that is.
Absolutely. You ready to jump into it, man?
Dude, I'm excited. Let's do it.
All right. First up for this week's first great campaign, we have the Chillies playing cards, the hottest decks collection. This campaign is done by Stefan. Stefan is the man behind the Beyond playing cards, which we took a look at a while ago in this week's top 3. Absolutely awesome retro space vibe bicycle deck. So really excited to see him coming out with this follow-up deck, the Chillies. Absolutely a great campaign here. Diving right into it, we see it has a really cool story to it. Printed by Cardamundi on their B9 slimline stock. So driving right into the important factors, who's going to be printing this deck. You can see a really cool mirrored back design there as well. To me, this definitely gives off those cardistry vibes.
It's really cool to see. Obviously, you know, we had OPC come out with their Chillies deck, and it's cool to see kind of a different take on it.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely, dude. That's the one thing I love about decks is there's so many different ways, same with art, that you can interpret the same subject matter, which is really cool. Jumping right into the features here, we see again, printed by Cardamundi, fulfilled by Brothership in the US, 52 Wonders in the EU, and Card Cuts in Australia. So really doing a good job utilizing those regional distributors in order to help lower shipping costs. Always exciting to see that. We get into the back design and the tuck design here. I have to say,
dude, I love this tuck box. I love the tuck.
I was going to say the same thing. I think it looks fire. And the other thing about that too is I love the order in which it breaks it down. You start with the outside of the tuck box because that's the first thing you see. And then you pull it out and you see the back design there. And then it gets into the cards, which I really like. The funny thing is these are relatively standard styled courts, but they're not actually standard across the board. So you can see custom pips on the court cards here, and this hilarious sweating King of Spades face here, which gets me laughing every time I see it.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if all the... Okay, so the yellow. Okay. I didn't know if all the suits were red.
Yeah, it looks like a red and yellow combo, yellow being the traditionally red and red being the traditionally black. Does make the playability a little bit tough there, which
confusing.
Isn't the end of the world because, again, this kind of comes off as a cardistry deck in my book. You have those broken borders on the back, the really nice mirrored design, and definitely some interesting fanning elements. But really nicely put together. We get into it. We see some really cool jokers here. And then, of course, some really nice stretch goals. So day 1 backer certificate, basically being a day 1 backer gets you this. Then we see that they have a jalapeno edition and a habanero edition and a picante edition, which are all locked to different stretch goals. I also really like the fact that they put the standardized conversions of the stretch goals there. So this campaign is running in Great British Pounds, but if you're in USD or Euros, you can see it quickly on the fly in the stretch goals there.
Dude, this is all inclusive. Everybody's included. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, really nicely put together. This picante edition looks sick too, with this really nice dark tuck box with the This picante edition is really dope too, with that really dark tuck box and that metallic foil around the outside with the Serrano across it. Really like the way they put together this campaign. And then you can also see that full foil back design there, which is going to be spectacular when you're doing cardistry with this. That's going to catch a lot of light, really nice reflection in a lot of the packet cuts.
Yeah, and we know it's going to be beautiful because we got his business card with that foil on the back.
And it looks spectacular.
It was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. So nice little timeline here talking about how the campaign's going to play out, which I always love to see. Talking about the add-ons here as well, which I think is really cool. I would say that with the Picante, because it is a stretch goal oriented add-on, I love the little lock there. I think it's really clever. I probably would have put that towards the bottom of it just to show that it wasn't originally available. But otherwise, this thing looks spectacular. Again, touching on the fulfillment here, really well put together, hitting on the printer, the features, the fulfillment. It never hurts to duplicate that important information because, again, you never know how fast someone's going to be scrolling through here, how quickly they're going to be able to see stuff, and what they're going to miss. So duplicating important information never hurts.
Yeah, it's a great campaign, put together very nicely.
Absolutely, man. And it looks like we're taking a price point of $21 here shipped, which is really right in line with what we've been seeing recently with recent shipping increases and things like that. So very nicely
put together. Yeah, the standard
together.
is about six bucks for a deck nowadays.
Shipped, yeah. Really excited to see this fun, though. So congrats to Stefan on that one, and good luck with the rest of the campaign.
Good luck.
And next up for this week's first good campaign, we have the Eve, the Untold Story official playing cards. A deck of illustrated playing cards based on Francis Testa's graphic novels, Eve, the Untold Story. Really cool campaign. I did a little bit of digging into this one because I wanted to make sure there weren't any copyright issues based on the fact that it's, you know, around this whole Eve, the Untold Story graphic novel. Turns out there are not. It looks like the creator of the graphic novel is actually part of this campaign, which I think is awesome. I love to see people taking successful projects in other mediums and bringing them to playing cards. Hands down, a really, really borderline great campaign with just a few tweaks that would have put this over the edge from good to great.
Yeah.
So jumping into it, we see a really nice thought out story. I'd expect nothing less being based on an established story in the graphic novel. So really excited to see that. We can see that they have an overview here talking about the printing, which is going to be based on these stretch goals, and then fulfillment by Gambler's Warehouse. So really nice to see them hitting those 2 points. We get into the tuck and we have a nice little video that shows a full 360 render of the tuck, which I love. I would have liked to see some of these pictures split up with the text here to make it a little more cohesive, but really nice job on these renders showing off the tuck itself. The tuck actually looks
they did a good job.
Yeah, looks.
I'd like to see the features section, that overview section, kind of condensed a little bit. There's a lot of spaces in there, and just simple bullet points, kind of like those stars they have, and just condensed a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and again, that's a nitpick point more than anything. Obviously,
sure.
We all know that Kickstarter and its white spacing can be an unbearable headache. So with that in mind, one thing to do is try and tighten that up as best as possible, but when you can't always do it, it happens. Really, really detailed look at all of the court cards here, which I think ultimately is nice because you get a lot of the story behind it all, but I also think that this would almost be better saved for an art book add-on and condense and shorten, make the whole section on each of the court cards a little more concise for the fact that this campaign ends up becoming pretty long. And if I'm scrolling through and I'm still not 100% sold by now, it may be that I just decide to jump off and be out, you know?
Yeah, I think a PDF would be perfectly fine with all that information. Literally copy and paste this into a PDF, and then underneath the images, even if you have 3 pictures across of the court cards like we normally see, that would be definitely good enough for me.
And so I think the other thing that stands out here is you see this as diamonds instead of diamonds. So one thing to consider there also, make sure you're double checking not only your text, but your images as well. Thankfully, that is a quick fix. So hopefully when FC Design sees this, they can flip the switch there and correct the spelling on the diamonds suits there. Then scrolling down, we're going to kind of cut through some of the heavier stuff here. We get to this back design, which I have to say is really intricate. Love the mirrored design on it. Definitely meant to be a collector's deck. I like that they show it fanned, but I think we can all be honest, this is a collector's oriented deck. No question about it.
Oh, for sure. Do me a favor, dude. Go up to where it said spades for a second. Did they spell spades a different way too? Like up one more?
No.
Right there. Okay. I wasn't sure if I saw a different letter in there. I'm like, I wonder if they did that on purpose.
I took a look and everywhere else it says diamond, so I didn't think so. But
yeah.
Cool little approach to the number cards as well, showing through the video. And then we have these cool fully exploded aces, which I always love to see. and getting into it, man, this is just, this is the thing to me. This is just a long campaign. The other thing I would say here too is when you're doing your add-ons, you absolutely want to include the price that those add-ons are going to be. Obviously, a person is going to see that when they're going through the backing process, but it's nice to let people know and let people kind of budget in their head as they're running through what that's going to come to. The other...
And put images, right?
Yes. It never hurts to put those. Obviously, for some of these, you know, removal of censorship, which the graphic novels were originally published. You can't be showing the uncensored stuff on here. Maybe you can, you know, but if you're trying to make it a little more family friendly, probably best not to. But show a picture of the graphic novel. Show what those are going to be, because the images are going to get people to stop and focus on what the add-ons are. The other thing that jumps out to us on this one as a big reason this was actually a good campaign and not a great campaign was the tiers itself. I do want to quickly touch on the fact that they have a great stretch goal here. They did mention the printer was going to be dictated by the stretch goal, so you can see that here. The one thing I would say, though, is bring that up to the top as well. It never hurts to say this will be printed by MPC, but if we hit a stretch goal, see below, we will go with USPCC. If anything, that entices people to go through the whole campaign to see what that goal actually is, but putting the finish and the printer up top never hurts. The thing we'll say with these tiers is twofold. One, there's a lot of text in these tiers. It's super important to realize that you want your tiers to be as concise as possible. That's why they build in the includes functionality to help you be concise and bullet pointed. The other thing is here, if I count from the top, including the pledge without a reward, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 tiers before I actually get to a deck of cards. Remember that your goal here is to fund a deck of cards, so you should not really have tiers that are not decks of cards. Your tiers should all include decks of cards plus something else if you want to do a special combo like deck of cards plus limited edition signed t-shirt that's only available through a tier. But everything else, so all of these, you know, getting the book compilation here, getting the Untold Story Part 2, those should all be add-ons. Those should all be things...
Yeah, and if you look below that deck, I think there's another tier for like a poster.
Yeah.
So I don't even know how many like deck tiers they have.
Yes.
It looks like
all things considered, you should be adding add-ons as add-ons. That's a lot of adding in one sentence there, but you should be using the add-on functionality of Kickstarter to ensure that your tiers are deck specific no matter what, because your goal here is to sell as many decks as possible. So having non-deck tiers now allows people to back your campaign without buying the thing you're trying to sell. It doesn't make sense. Have those as add-ons, have them included with a deck if you want to do a special signed limited edition poster. However you want to go about it, make sure there's always a deck included.
Yeah, because sometimes that can get you in trouble. You know, if you're in the campaign guaranteeing 1,000 decks to be printed, and you have a tier that isn't buying a deck, but it's a $25 poster or something, you know, and you get 100 people that back that, you're still guaranteeing 1,000 decks, but you're not really getting the funding for 1,000 decks.
Yeah, so you're definitely eating into your goal there. But like I said, we both think this campaign is truly a great campaign that's falling to that good category just because of some small logistical stuff. It talks about the printer, it talks about fulfillment, has a great feature section, has a great story behind it. But tweaking those tiers and those sales-oriented aspects would really take this from a high-level good campaign to a great campaign.
Yeah, good luck.
And next up for this week's Needs Help campaign, we have the Minimalist playing cards. So, obviously, Steve and I joked a little bit about this before we even got here, that another Minimalist playing card deck, we've seen a lot of these recently. Some of them fun, some of them don't. Made of Waterproof is an interesting subtitle there to this. There's a lot of different aspects to this campaign that immediately stand out to me as interesting or that I'm questioning. First and foremost, I think it's really interesting that this campaign is based out of Brooklyn, New York, but you can see that the actual goal is in Mexican pesos. So the interesting thing is, I wonder where this campaign is actually being based out of, because to me, it's now saying, hey, this is not in the currency you're expecting it to be. Something to be aware of. I don't think that necessarily raises to the level of a beware campaign, but definitely one of many flags that could lead someone to be cautious of a campaign. Yeah. Let's dive into it here. First and foremost, we get into the story, and it talks about half of the goal. It's really important to remember that your story should be about the deck, not about updates. Your updates can go comfortably in this updates section here. In addition to that, we dive into the campaign itself, and it's relatively short. It's a very image heavy, which is good. It's better to have too many images than not enough. But taking this story and interdispersing it between these images actually makes for a much better flow for this campaign. In addition to that, we don't see who's printing. We don't see who's fulfilling. We don't really see what makes this deck more special than any other deck we've seen out there. There seems to be two versions of this here, one of which has standard numbers and one of which has Roman numerals on it, which I think is interesting because now I'm not exactly sure like which deck has which, or is it that the cards flip and one side is standard and the other side is Roman numerals?
Yeah, and if you go down like the images, and there's like a row of all black, not that one, I think it's the next one. One more. That one right there. I can't even, they literally look like 4 black cards with nothing else on.
You know, and I think that's something you absolutely have to be aware of when you're working on putting together your deck and your images, is making them as clear and easily readable as possible. The images here are just too small based on the colors you're using. It might have been better to do some sort of larger square image with like a fan showing all of them, similar to what was done above here, maybe a little bit cleaner put together. But for me, the big thing here is it talks about this whole idea of them being Roman numeral cards, but I'm seeing both Roman numeral and non-Roman numeral cards. So what is the underlying story behind this deck? In addition...
Oh, it looks like one side of the card, like on one corner it's Roman numerals and on the other corner it's not. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, but then if I go look at the... Where is it here? If I go look at these, they're Roman numerals on both sides.
Oh, okay.
So I'm really not sure. The other thing I will say here too is the risks and challenges, which thank you to our viewers last week who pointed out the new placement of this. I particularly don't like the new placement. I think it actually removes transparency from the campaigns as a whole. While I didn't like the old placement, I did think it made it much more noticeable and much more apparent that there were risks and challenges. To me, I think this actually hides the risks and challenges, which is never something you want to do in a campaign. But with that in mind, I know some projects could have some problems, but if something happens, I will let you know. Right now, the only challenge is reach the goal, but I know that with your support, this will come true. Thank you. This is not a risk and challenges. This is something that should be in an update or a comment. To me, this is a terrible risks and challenges. I will say that you really need to figure out what your risks and challenges are trying to say. Yes, there could be problems. What are those problems? How are you going to address them? Be upfront with those, because right now, to me, you don't have a printer, you don't have fulfillment, you can't identify your risks and challenges. Nothing about this instills trust in me that this campaign will fulfill and fund, because I don't know that you've really thought this whole process through. These are really key indicators when you're trying to make a sale on Kickstarter, is letting people know you've actually thought about what the process takes.
Yeah. Dude, it's a minimal deck, and it's a minimal campaign.
Yeah, but with that in mind, it is not really a minimal price point. You're looking at $30 for the deck. Yeah. So, all things considered, minimal artwork, maximum price.
Yeah.
So,
good luck.
Good luck. And for another great campaign this week, we have the Pagan Playing Cards by Usi. No surprise here, Usi is a phenomenal household name when it comes to collectors playing cards. Beautiful artwork, really well put together campaign, really well thought out story behind this, and I love the fact that it's a circular deck. They obviously have a standard deck that goes along with this as well, but this thing just looks awesome, dude. That circular Joker there is probably one of my favorite cards I've seen in a long time. I know you hate it because you're not a skull person, but
it's dope,
it is super cool.
Like, I can admit when it's dope, and it's dope.
Really cool, and I love that 4-quadrant artwork that they've brought to it because it's a circular card. Really well put together story, really nice images across the board. The one thing I would like to see is a little more of that text brought down in between the images to make the flow a little bit better, but all things considered, really nicely put together. The one thing I would say on this one is it would be interesting to see who's going to be printing on this one. We do know Usi usually fulfills themselves, so that's an assumption we can make there. And the other thing with their decks is, you know, I think everyone's kind of used to this, but their price point is a little bit high. For the standard deck, you're looking at $29 shipped. For the circular deck, you're looking at $37. While there probably are additional cost factors that play into the printing of the circular deck, I'm not sure how much it is. $37 seems a little on the high end, but again, this being a collector's deck falls within that range of what collectors are sometimes willing to pay.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, dope deck. Obviously, 800 backers. People
Yeah.
love it. They are definitely a well-known.
Yeah, so good luck.
Good luck.
And for another great campaign this week, we have the Apocalypse playing cards from Emmanuel Valtierra. Emmanuel does amazing decks. For anyone who doesn't know, his last deck, the Japanese Scroll deck, was one of my favorite of the year probably so far. Really amazing artist. The one thing I will say to Emmanuel on this one, because he always goes with NPC and his stretch goal of LPCC, at this point, NPCC is a very collectors-oriented deck, but their price point's about the same as Legends, and Legends just feels so much better in hand. I think, Emmanuel, it may be time for you to just switch over to Legends as your standard printer. Scratch it as a stretch goal, make your stretch goal something more interesting, and go with that Legends as a standard printer because your fans will love it. No question about it, man.
Yeah, I mean, he gets plenty of backing that it doesn't matter. I mean, 226 backers. At that point, it doesn't matter.
Dude, it probably could help.
It's all going to be the same.
Probably could help. So, good luck.
Yeah.
As always, love his decks. Can't wait to see what else he comes out with.
Heck yeah.
And for another great campaign this week, we have the COVID-19 Dissecting the Coronavirus playing cards, printed by LPC. First-time creator here did a really great job throwing this together. As with all campaigns recently, I will say, make sure to take some of this story and break it down into the images. Make sure the story flows through the campaign so there's a little bit of a better kind of cadence to the way people will read this. But really love the artwork, really love the way this was put together. And I think they came in with a pretty solid price point for a first-time deck. You're looking at 22 shipped. So really very nice for a first-time creator. Good luck.
Good luck, Andrew.
And for another great campaign this week, we have the Cartes Moreau playing cards. This deck, I will be honest, blew my mind. Love the artwork to it. Very much a collectors-oriented deck. But this campaign is a great campaign. Rolling into it, we see a really short story to kick it off, followed by that key information, your feature section there, printed by Cardamundi on Slimline B9, fulfilled by Gamblers, fulfillment in Europe to be determined. Love that they touch on that right there. Love that they go through a really well thought out campaign, touching on all the key factors from, again, another first-time creator, Santiago Cards. Really excited to see how well this campaign does. You can already see 3x their funding goal. So, good luck. Keep that running. Nicely done for a first-time campaign. And for another great campaign this week, we have the Praha Celestial Clock Flipbook Animated Playing Cards USPCC. The one thing I will say off the bat for this one, great campaign, but definitely remove the USPCC from the title. In my book, that adds a little bit of lack of transparency there when we know it's being printed by USPCC, but that can lead people astray thinking that it is a USPCC project or sponsored by USPCC project, something along those lines. It's not worth getting into the hoopla of all that. It's better off just being in the campaign itself. It looks a lot cleaner. Really nicely put together campaign in the sense that they touch on that single vertical image to get all of the information out there. One of the first people I saw really work on this was Luke Wadey, and I always love how well this is taken off. So really nicely done there. Excited by the artwork in this, and I always love to see their flipbook style campaign where you have very similar faces on the cards, but little differentiations between the suits. So not much has to be shown with this, though it would have been nice to see some breakout images of the cards themselves.
Yeah.
Dude.
Cool. It's cool to see, add-ons of older decks too.
Absolutely. I always think it's great if you have previous decks to sell those as an add-on because you never know who's coming to it for the first time, and you're always looking to move decks, so why not?
Yeah.
Good luck. And for another great campaign this week, we have the Salmon Fish playing cards. So this is actually a recent relaunch of a recently unsuccessful campaign. While this was a previously great campaign, the one thing that stands out to me is there was a very quick turnaround time on the relaunch with this, with minimal, if any, changes to the campaign. And in my book, that almost puts it down to like on the cusp of going from great to good. You really want to make sure that if you are not first successful with your campaign, you're assessing everything that went wrong and making changes to ensure that your second launch is going to be successful. While that's possible to do within a day of the previous campaign not funding, taking a look at these two campaigns, I can't discern much, if any, difference. So it's really important to make sure when you're relaunching a campaign, you're doing it with a actual, I don't know how I want to say that. It's really important when you're relaunching a campaign to do it with an actual specific goal in mind of getting funded different from your previous attempt.
Yeah, and get on socials, man. Get people to see it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're looking at a decrease in backers here because of the relaunch. You're going to want to drive as much momentum behind this as possible. So good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
And for another great campaign this week, we have the Trust No Fella playing cards. I have to say, they've been doing a lot of marketing on this. It's a really interesting concept. The one thing that stood out to me on this one is I think there just might not have been enough lead time up to the launch of the deck to get visibility on it. It's also a very unique style, so making sure you're hitting those niche categories on Facebook, people who love old-timey cartoons, things like that. That's where you're going to get the most drive on this, because this to me feels a little bit like a usable deck, but geared more towards a specific collector's style.
For sure.
Now, good luck. Love the artwork on it. I'm always excited to see new creators coming to the scene, so just keep pushing it.
I thought that said P-Mouth. I'm like, ew.
So there you go.
Good luck, P-Mouth.
And for another good campaign this week, we have the Fibbers 2 Rare Bits Last Chance for Fibbers. The one thing I will say about this campaign that stands out the most to me, even though it's another relaunch quickly after an unsuccessful campaign, the big thing on it is if you go look at the previous campaign looking for a reason that it didn't fund, all of the updates are private. And to me, while a campaign is live, your updates should all be public. Though someone is not already a backer, they're still a potential backer. And if you're prohibiting them from seeing information that's important, there's a very good chance that they're going to be leery of backing the campaign. No one wants to go through the process of backing to read an update to then decide they don't want to back anymore. It's so much easier to just not back in the first place. With that said, I'm a firm believer in transparency across the campaign, and I don't think any updates should be for backers only unless they include highly sensitive information, and those are few and far between. So with that in mind, really make sure that you have transparency into all of your communications about why your campaign may not have succeeded the first time, why you decided to cancel, and why you're relaunching. Good luck. And for another needs help campaign this week, we have the Tropical Jungle playing cards. And with last week's Need Help too, we're going to throw a quick Beware right up there, because I will tell you right now, this looks exactly like the campaigns we've been seeing coming out of Copenhagen, Denmark, from the same creator under different accounts, which none of which have fulfilled yet, which all have this similar vibe. We can go look at some of their previous campaigns, and you're going to see the same yellow background, the same style of render, the same wording used in the campaign. This is a giant Beware in our book, because until one of the 6 outstanding campaigns that this creator has funded on or has currently running actually fulfills, there is no guarantee that you're getting anything out of this campaign. So please be aware, if you are backing this, it is at your own risk, more so than usual.
Yeah, be careful. Stay away from these guys.
Yeah, until we know what's going on with these campaigns and until we actually see one fulfill, I would be steering clear of these hands down. We have not seen an update on any of those 5 or 6 campaigns. We have not seen any sort of encouragement or reason to believe these are going to fund. So these are high chance of scam. Beware.
Stay away.
Steve, I gotta say, man, it was an interesting week, jam-packed, full of fun new decks. What are you backing?
I would back Pagan.
All right, nice.
I think the normal deck, not the round one. If I can.
Fair enough.
I would back the Carte. What is it? The Carte.
Cartes Moreau, yeah.
Moreau, yep. I would back that one. And I think that's it.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, I like the Chillies. You know, not the standard Chillies just because it's red, but I think it's cool back design. But I think if it, hit that foil one, I think it'd be kind of dope. Or even the habanero one's kind of cool too. That orange.
Yeah, or even the green looks nice on it, because you don't see a ton of green decks these days. But I would love to see that hit those stretch goals. I think I'm in a similar boat to you this week. I would go for the Chillies. I don't mind a red deck as much as you do. Absolutely go with the Cartes Moreau, because I think that thing is just beautiful looking. On the Pagan side, I actually really dig the quad artwork on the circular deck. I think I'd be going for the circular deck. And then I think I'm on board with the Eve, the Untold story as well. Not really my theme usually, but really awesome artwork, really cool back design. I really like the style they went with on that one.
Interesting.
And as always, we always want to know what everyone else out there is backing. So while you're watching, make sure to drop a comment down below. Let us know what campaigns this week really caught your eye. And let us know what new decks you got from previous campaigns this week, because we know there's a lot of decks fulfilling out there. We always love to hear what everyone got their hands on and what they're excited for. So make sure to drop a comment down below.
Dude, let's get into this fun part.
Dude, I am super excited for the fun part this week because I think it's funny. You picked a campaign that I would usually pick. And by that same token, I think I picked a campaign that you would usually pick. Though it's not a lamp. I'll throw it out there.
Hey, dude.
One day I'm going to pick like the king of all lamps that ends the lamp debate forever. But for now, I have not found it.
I don't know, man. I'm pretty heavy on those lamps, so I might see it before.
I feel like you have email alerts when new lamps come out on Kickstarter.
They're called lamp alerts.
Lamp alerts, there you go. All right. But, dude, I gotta say, I'm excited for this week's fun campaigns. We have 4 great, fun new campaigns this week, which for anyone who is out there looking at what else is on Kickstarter, you're gonna know that there are tons of cool things on Kickstarter dropping every single day, every single hour of the day. Some of them appeal to very small niches. Some of them appeal to thousands of backers. So we're just trying to find some fun campaigns that you may enjoy just as much as we do. If you decide to back any of these, also drop a comment down below because we always love to hear it. First up for this week's fun campaign for me, we have the Count Dracula's Bran Castle Jigsaw puzzle. So Steve, for anyone who doesn't know, is a Jigsaw enthusiast. And I saw this one, I was like, man, if he's not picking it, I am. I'm actually a huge fan of Bram Stoker's Dracula. So this to me speaks to me on multiple levels here. But I love the kind of cartoonish artwork that ties into this puzzle. It's not trying to, it almost reminds me of like a Where's Waldo book.
Totally. You know, only no Waldo.
No Waldo.
It's Where's
Who knows?
Dracula.
There could be a Waldo in there, though. You don't know.
It's Where's Dracula.
There he is, right there in the library. So I absolutely love the style of this because it actually tries to touch on all of the major locations in the Bram Stoker novel, which I think is really, really cool. As it talks about here, it's told in 31 vignettes throughout the castle. So this tries to touch on each of those areas throughout the castle, retelling the story in a graphic format, which I think is really, really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan. You know, this type of puzzle is definitely, you know, my forte. There's a lot going on, and it's fun. You know, that cartoon style just definitely makes it.
These behind the scenes looks, I love seeing this whole like progress through and how they laid it out, the rough sketching. It's such a dope process, and this is one thing that I think actually playing cards could benefit from significantly, is showing some sort of montage through the process of where you started to where you got. We've seen great success with that in campaigns that have done that in the past. Great example is some of Nick Nisko's Elemental playing card campaigns where he shows his rough sketch of the Joker and then sells that as part of the campaign as well. But I really love to see that behind the scenes vibe from these campaigns, and this puzzle just looks awesome, like absolutely awesome. Cool.
Yeah, and it's great price, dude. $35 is
good for 1,000.
Perfect. That's literally right in the ballpark of a high-end 1,000-piece puzzle, 1,500-piece puzzle.
And look at that, 481 backers. So people are stoked on this. We're gonna have to see if we can find a campaign to drum up a puzzle. I got a couple in mind. We'll have to talk about that another time. Everyone will just have to keep an eye out. I'm gonna skip that whole part actually. So let me see here, dude. Absolutely love a good puzzle, and like you said, an absolute steal on the price point. So good luck to Count Dracula's Bran Castle Jigsaw puzzle. And for another fun campaign this week, we have the Dragonbond Lords of Vaala board game. Dude, I gotta say, what caught my eye on this one was the little dragon miniatures, but diving into this seems like an awesome board game. Funded in 6 hours. I'm not a huge fan of that whole marketing ploy to it because you always can manipulate the numbers to say, oh, I mean, that's a pretty legit goal, $40,000. I'm sure they weren't like, oh, we're going to put a small goal to fund quick. 40 G's is pretty significant. But with that in mind, I love just the idea of new games coming to the market all the time, especially ones that are really well thought out. So you can see it here, 60-minute playtime, 1 to 4 players, age 12 plus. They're hitting all of these key factors for a board game there, and they're including all of this really cool stuff like these little miniatures that are your figurines on the puzzle or on the game board. Dude, I just can't get it. I can't get enough of this. I think the artwork is really cool. The idea behind the game is really cool. Some of these add-ons though too are just sick.
Dude, it looks super cool. Definitely interesting. I just don't know this world, so you know, but it looks cool.
To me, it kind of looks like a mix between like the fantasy realms of Dungeons and Dragons with like Risk, where you're trying to conquer the world, but you're a dragon. Like, what could be better?
Yeah,
absolutely love it.
A ninja.
And I think, and then we're coming in here to at a price point of, what are we looking at? $49, I think. Oh, 79, 49 for the board game.
Dude, look how long that tier is. It's like a mile.
It's a lot. There's a lot to it. And I still think even what we said for earlier campaigns with playing cards, the same goes for it. You want to make sure you're making that as concise as possible, because that's a lot of confusion there to read through, especially on a mobile device. By the time you get to the bottom of reading it, you forgot what it said up top. But love the board game. Love to see it really getting a lot of traction behind it. 1,200 people are on board with this thing, so good luck. And for Steve's first fun campaign this week, we have the Bold by Uzi World's First Powerful 260-watt Graphene Power Bank. Dude, people are always on the go. You always need a power bank. This thing looks intense.
Yeah, dude, this thing's awesome. I'm a big fan of, you know, mobile power. You know, I travel a lot with photography, and I'm always on airplanes, and, you know, obviously not nowadays, but, you know, in the past, and I always needed an external sort of power bank, you know, and this one looks really small, and the only thing it does not have is an outlet to plug in a standard plug into. That's the only thing that I would like to see on it, you know, but it is what it is. You know, it's dope, and it's very well priced. I think it comes in at like $149 for the early bird, the super early bird. And then I think it jumps up to like $179, which is starting to get, you know, a little pricey, you know, but obviously Kickstarter is the way to get it. I think it's like $240 after Kickstarter, which kind of puts it over the top for me.
Well, and you're looking at new battery technology here, so I'm sure that plays a large part in it with the lipographene. The really interesting thing about that is you're not relying on a standard lithium-ion battery, so there may be some benefits when you're trying to fly on a plane. You may not have to, you know, take it out of checked luggage, things like that. But yeah, lithium polymer graphene. So I'm not fully familiar with the specifics of lipographene batteries, but it's definitely interesting to see if it has a longer shelf life than a standard lithium ion or standard power bank. That may justify some of the additional cost, but very cool.
Yeah, I mean, it says it will charge your, you know, whatever you are charging up to 70% in the first hour.
Interesting. And to me, that says that also depends, I think, a lot on the actual ability for the device to charge fast. So if you don't have a quick charge device, it's not that much beneficial to you, but definitely interesting to see.
Yeah, and I think you get like 6 charges on an iPhone.
That's not bad. Definitely not bad.
No, I mean, that's dope. Yeah, that's dope.
Cool.
And it's small. That's the key for me. It's small. It's not a pain in the ass to like carry around. You know, it's literally looks like a phone, like a thicker phone.
Very cool. And for another fun campaign from Steve this week, we have the Dragon Eye Dice, the Chromatic Dragon Collection. This 100% should have been a me campaign.
100%. I stole it from you.
I love it though, dude. I love it.
And I must say, it was shown to me. You know, thank you for who pointed it out to me on Instagram. I don't want to butcher your name, so I'm not going to say it, but you know who you are. Thank you. Super cool. I'm not a huge dice person, but this is dope.
Steve only likes dice if they're tiny.
Yeah, a
little bitty dice, but
the green ones are so.
This
dope,
is really cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key. You gotta come up with these vibrant colors, and you know, people love it. I think it's really cool.
Honestly, it's funny too, because out of all of the dice, the clear ones are probably the least exciting for me. The Black Dragon Smoked one are really cool. Those green and those blue ones just pop, dude.
Yeah, I mean, that green one is so dope. Biohazard.
Super vibrant.
How much are they coming in at?
Looking at $70 for the set. Yeah, $70 for the set shipped.
Yeah.
Which seems to be about the standard of what we see. And this is for round edge. If you want the diamond edge, which I'm guessing are basically sharp edge dice, you're looking at 91 shipped.
Yeah, they have 3 different shapes.
Yeah.
They have those, the longer ones, too.
Yeah, which is interesting. Yeah, so you have the rounded edge. You have the what they're calling diamond edge, which are sharp edge dice. And then, yeah, I saw that odd long one in that, like that right there.
Yeah.
I don't know where that is in the campaign. I haven't seen it. It may actually just be part of the dice sets themselves.
Maybe they just throw one in there.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, so it looks like two different types of dice, whether it be sharp edge or traditional rounded edge, but very cool campaign.
Yeah, it's fun. Definitely something that you would have picked.
Yeah, dude, absolutely agree. I mean, I definitely would have gone with this one if you had not. So very cool to see some fun dice creators out there. I think for everyone who's into tabletop games, a nice set of dice always adds a little bit of flair to it, especially if you're a dungeon master who likes to bring a little bit of personalization to your games. It's always cool to have different dice for different events that you're rolling for. So if someone's being attacked by a dragon or defending from a dragon, having dragon dice just adds to the fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Dungeon Master sounds pretty epic.
That's the person who runs the storyline for the Dungeons and Dragons game. So the person who's in charge of walking you through the adventure. Obviously, we're always looking for opportunities to teach Steve more about Dungeons and Dragons. We'll eventually have to get him on a little online D&D game. But as always, this was an amazing week. Some really great first-time creators out there bringing some spectacular campaigns to the table. But as always, there's risks with Kickstarter. So for anyone out there looking to back, make sure to do your research. Make sure you're not backing these campaigns with untrustworthy creators. And make sure that you're checking out all the resources at your disposal to find out what campaigns have been successful in the past, how the experience has gone with creators in the past, so you know what you're getting yourself into. And while you're at it, make sure to drop a comment down below, let us know what you're backing, and like, share, and subscribe.
Hey, bye.